Welcome back guys. In this video I'll be comparing the fluidity, image quality and input delay of AFMF2 and FSR 3 frame generation techniques. Both of them are developed by AMD. FSR 3 relies on optical flow technology and game data like motion vectors. This is why it's required for the game developers to implement it in their games. AFMF on the other hand is a driver level implementation of frame generation, does not rely on any game data. We can enable it in a game from AMD's Adrenaline software. FSR 3 works on any GPU, whether it's from Intel, AMD or Nvidia, does not matter. AFMF2 works on RX 6000 and 7000 series GPUs. AMD Radeon 700M and 800M iGPUs are also supported. In this video, I'll be testing some games on my Rog Ally. I have the Set 1 Extreme variant of this device. It comes with Radeon 780M GPU. In order to get AFMF2 working on your PC with a compatible Radeon GPU, you need to download AMD's latest Technical Preview GPU driver. I have already installed it on my Rog Ally. First, I'll be running Marvel Spiderman Remastered. This is the game's Adrenaline profile. FreeSync enable, VSync disable. If the game's FPS with AFMF enable exceeds the display's maximum refresh rate, it's recommended to cap the game's FPS at half of the maximum refresh rate value. In case of Rog Ally, this FPS cap is 60, a few frames lower than that in order to accommodate any FPS fluctuations. 59, I have applied this FPS cap using Radeon Chill. AFMF2 disable for the time being. We'll be setting the search mode to high. This will prevent frame generation from getting disabled during fast visual motion when you move the camera around quickly. Performance mode set to quality. Disable AFMF for the time being. My Ally is running on BIOS version 339, UMA buffer size set to 6 GB, using a 25 watts manual profile, all three power values set at 25 watts, 900p resolution, CPU boost disabled. Show you the game settings. First I'll run the game without any frame generation technique, 900p resolution, window mode set to full screen, upscaler XeSS using its quality preset. This game supports FSR 3.1 officially, frame generation off, VSync off, medium preset, motion blur strength and frame strength set to nil. Radeon Chill is working. I'll just use Adrenaline's overlay to show you the performance metrics. Press Ctrl Shift and O keys together. There's Spider-Man. Your FPS is capped at 59. Radeon Chill is working. Check out the image quality. It's looking so sharp and clean. No graphical artifacts. This is the game running without any frame generation technique. Just swing around. %, GPU load. FPS is within a range of 55 to 59. I'll just enable FSR frame generation now. Settings on. FPS increased to around 93. Check out the input response. Input delay is not a problem. Controls are still very responsive. Can observe the added amount of smoothness. HUD is not flickering. Looking for some graphical artifacts around Spidey's character model. Barely any artifact is noticeable. Let's just swing around. Yeah, Spidey's shadow is flickering. See? On the ground. This is due to frame generation, flickering of the shadow, so this problem is present. While swinging around, FPS is within a range of 85 to 95. I'll just use this course, this particular area for testing frame generation. Going back. Now I'll switch to AFMF, stop here. Disable FSR frame generation first. Enable AFMF2 from Adrenaline software. Check its status. It should be active. Resume the game. FPS increased to around 97. Roughly the same performance using AFMF and FSR 3. I'll just move the camera in complete circles. Yeah, I can observe some ghosting around Spidey's character model. This ghosting issue was not present when I was using FSR 3. One good thing here is that frame generation does not get disabled even during fast visual motion when using AFMF. This was a problem with AFMF version 1. Okay, now I'll just swing around. Observe the FPS counter. Frame generation lag value is under 20 milliseconds. Input delay is not a problem even with AFMF2. Very responsive controls. FPS is within a range of 90 to 95. Not bad at all. Yeah, 88 FPS. It's the same performance that we got using FSR 3. Okay, Spidey's shadow is not flickering. Just observe this. This problem was present when I was using FSR 3. Shadow is rendered properly with AFMF version 2. Mixed results in terms of graphical artifacts. When you move the camera at a normal speed, then the ghosting effect around Spidey's character model is not noticeable. Now it's noticeable when I move the camera in complete circles. Now I'll be combining AFMF2 with FSR 3. Back to the game. Yeah, FPS increased to around 150, exceeded LS maximum refresh rate. I can observe ghosting around Spidey's character model. Input delay has increased as well. Nothing extreme though, you can still play the game. Ghosting effect is annoying. Swing around, observe Spidey's shadow on the ground. Yeah, it's flickering as well. So both of the frame generation techniques are working. Artifacts are present as well. You can play the game this way, but it does not feel like the real 140 or 150 FPS, the fluidity. Better to use any one of the frame generation techniques, at least on Rog Ally, because the overall FPS is higher than its max refresh rate value. Animation is a bit jerky. Now I'll be testing the next game, Ghost of Tsushima. This game also supports FSR 3.1 officially. Display mode set to full screen 900p resolution, upscaler XCSS using its quality preset. Frame generation disabled for the time being, VSync off using the medium preset. Motion blur strength set to nil. Adrenaline settings for the game, FreeSync enable, VSync off, hidden chill enable, applied a 59 FPS cap. AFMF disabled for the time being. There's Jin, I'm at Golden Temple. Here FPS is close to 44. Sprint around. This is the game running without any frame generation technique, 40 to 44 FPS. Yeah, gameplay is a bit choppy. We are out of Ally's VRR range, that is 48 to 120 Hz. Now I'll enable FSR. Frame generation on. Apply. Resume the game. FPS increased to around 67. Check out the input response. Not bad. Input delay is not a problem. Sprinting 64 to 69 FPS. Does not feel like real 65 FPS. In terms of fluidity, there is some choppiness. Go back now. Just observe Jin's bow. There are some artifacts around the bowstring. Very difficult to observe these artifacts on Ally small display right here. Now I'll enable AFMF2. First disable FSR frame generation. Off. AFMF2 on. Status active, search mode set to high, performance mode set to quality. Resume the game. Okay, when I move the camera in complete circles, Jin's bow is flickering. This artifact was not present when I was using FSR frame generation, but I'll be honest guys, AFMF's fluidity seems to be slightly better than the fluidity of FSR 3. FPS close to 70. Few frames higher than FSR 3. In terms of fluidity, I'll give the win to AFMF 2. Again, if you move the camera at a normal speed, graphical artifacts should not be noticeable like this. But when I move the camera in complete circles, the bow starts to flicker. Just checking the crosshair, looking for some flickering. Very difficult to observe it on a small display. You can definitely use AFMF in this game. Yeah, I think there is some flickering. Now I'll be using AFMF 2 in conjunction with FSR 3. On. Back to the game. And you can observe the choppiness. It's not smooth at all. FPS is close to 100. It does not feel like the real 100 FPS, so choppy sprinting. So it's not recommended to enable both AFMF 2 and FSR frame generation, at least in this game. Test the next one. Now I'll be running Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart for this game. And just set the UMA buffer size to 7 GB. Consumes a lot of VRAM. Game settings, display mode set to full screen 900p resolution using XeSS upscaler. Its quality preset, frame generation disabled for the time being, VSync off. Low preset, motion blur strength and frame gain strength set to nil. There's Ratchet. Here FPS is within a range of 47 to 57. Input response, image is looking clean, no graphical artifacts. VRAM usage almost 6.6 GB. Now I'll enable FSR frame generation. On. Back to the game. FPS increased to around 100. Yeah, I can observe the added amount of smoothness. Fluidity is there. Not observing any significant graphical artifacts. HUD is not flickering. FPS is consistent. Play the game for a brief moment. Input delay is not an issue. Going through the rifts is very demanding in this game. Make sure the game is installed on an SSD, otherwise it will stutter when you go through the rifts. Yeah, combat. FPS here is within a range of 80 to 90. FPS there. Back up to 87. Now I'll enable AFMF 2. Note the same sequence. First disable FSR 3. Off. AFMF 2 enable. Status active. Search mode set to high. Performance mode set to quality. Evaluate the same sequence. FPS here is around 85. Frame generation lag value, it's again under 20 milliseconds. Yeah, input delay is not an issue. Can observe the added amount of smoothness. I'm looking for some graphical artifacts. It seems there are some fuzzy textures around Ratchet's character model. Very difficult to observe this issue. Does not appear when you move the camera at a normal speed. Just play the game. observe the FPS counter hitting the GPU bottleneck. "90 FPS है combat time." FPS is still close to 90. This is very impressive. 82 FPS. The lowest FPS that I observed with FSR 3 was around 77 in the same sequence. Slightly better performance using AFMF 2. Again, no significant graphical artifacts. Game's HUD is also not flickering. Now I'll combine it with FSR 3. On. FPS increased to around 130, exceeding LS maximum refresh rate value. Yeah, the animation is a bit jerky, see? Not exactly smooth. Can observe some hitching. Better to just use any one of these frame generation techniques. Input delay increased as well. Definitely higher than using any one of these techniques. I'll be testing the next game, Horizon Forbidden West. For this game, just set the UMA buffer size setting to auto on Rog Ally. Game settings: 900p resolution, display mode set to full screen, XeSS upscaler using its quality preset, VSync off, frame generation off for the time being, low preset, motion blur 10 set to nil. Adrenaline settings for the game: FreeSync enabled, VSync disabled. This game's base FPS won't be higher than 60 on Rog Ally, so I have not enabled Radiant Chill setting. AFMF 2 disabled for the time being. There's Ally. Yeah, here FPS is around 33. It will be interesting to see how these frame generation techniques work. Check out the input response. Gameplay is a bit sluggish, as you would expect. Image quality is looking clean. Now I'll enable FSR frame generation. On. Back to the game. FPS increased to around 55. Yeah, I can observe the added amount of smoothness. A screen tearing like effect can be observed around the edges of the display. Game's HUD elements are not flickering. Some garbled textures around this HUD element when I move the camera in complete circles. Image quality is looking clean. No artifacts around Ally. Frame generation does not get disabled when I move the camera around quickly during fast visual motion. I'll switch to AFMF 2 now. Disable FSR frame generation. AFMF 2 on. Status active. Search mode high. Performance mode quality. Back to the game. FPS is still around 55. Again, we are getting the same performance using AFMF 2 and FSR 3. Okay. Looking for some graphical artifacts. Yeah, the game's HUD elements are flickering. See? Even the crosshair is flickering. Observing some minor ghosting around Aloy's character model. FSR 3.1 did a better job in this game. Sprinting. It seems the fluidity of FSR 3 was better than the fluidity of AFMF 2. Now I'll enable both of these frame generation techniques. AFMF 2 is already enabled, so I'll just enable FSR, see what happens. Can observe the increase in input delay. Yeah, the animation is not looking smooth at all. It's a bit jerky, as you can see. So not recommended to enable both of these techniques. Game's HUD is flickering. Oh my god, look at the carbon textures around this HUD element. What's going on? We have artifacts from both FSR and AFMF2. Smoothness is gone now. Time to conclude the video. In terms of performance, AFMF2 is on par with FSR 3. In some games, I even observed a slightly higher frame rate when using AFMF2. Now it's a bit difficult to simulate the exact same sequence, so that may be the reason for the slightly higher FPS. Input delay was roughly the same using both of these frame generation techniques. Frame generation does not get disabled even during fast visual motion using both AFMF2 and FSR 3. FSR 3 produced less graphical artifacts than AFMF2, especially around the character models. In Spiderman, I observed some ghosting around Spidey's character model when using AFMF2. In Ghost of Tsushima, Jin's bow was flickering aggressively when using AFMF2. In Horizon Forbidden West, there was some fuzzy textures around Aloy's character model. Game's HUD elements were also flickering. I even combined both FSR 3 and AFMF2, did not observe a very smooth looking animation. It was a bit jerky and had graphical artifacts from both of the frame generation techniques. It's better to just use any one of these frame generation techniques, at least on Rog Ally. So that's it for the video guys. I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.